Hi equals! Welcome to the beginning of your week. This is probably Tuesday when you're seeing this. It's Monday as I'm filming it. It takes me that long just to upload and download and edit and all of that stuff. I actually find it fun even though you hear me complaining about it. But this was my birthday weekend, this past weekend. And it was one of those birthdays where there was a 5 or 0 attached. I won't tell you which one. And, they always kind of make you think about growing older. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how women are, they grow older, and society kind of starts to view women as being invisible as they get older, whereas men just become distinguished. So, even when I redid my driver's license, I got one of those new ones. Long story about my car being towed because it was the second Friday of the month and they were doing street sweeping or something. But in order to get my car back, I had to show them my brand new driver's license, which is one of the new ones, the ones that had to be mailed to you. And I didn't know this, but apparently this was the first one the impound lot had seen. And so they took their little light and they were flashing it all over it. And I saw all of the hologram effects because they had a special light. And of course, she had to call everybody in the office over to check out this new driver's license. Yeah. Anyway. That was interesting. So I've renewed my driver's license because it's my birthday month. It was my birthday this last weekend. Thinking about growing older, thinking about the difference in the way men and women are perceived as they grow older. And as well as, spent the morning, it takes that long. No, spent a few minutes putting on makeup so that I wouldn't look washed out and old on video. And I'm not sure that men necessarily, I know some, because I've seen them do YouTube videos about makeup, but not all men feel the need to do makeup in the same way. They're considered distinguished as, the lines appear on their face. Women, when they have lines on their face, are just old as far as society is concerned. Could be wrong. Love to hear you argue with me in the comments. And then I started kind of thinking about this way that women are viewed versus how men are viewed. So I started thinking about the word misogyny. Now, misogyny is kind of this idea in society that women are lesser than men. The word's been around for a long, long time. We don't talk about it a lot. I think it's something we, don't want to recognize in ourselves as the human race. But it's out there. And the reason I'm talking about it, of course, on this channel, Kim Perfect TV, talk about LGBT issues, is that I really think that misogyny is at the root of a lot of what we're talking about. First of all, one of the other roots, coincidentally, and by the way, I consider myself Christian, are religious texts, particularly the very, very old religious texts that make up the Old and New Testament. I don't know enough about the Quran, but it's very possible it's part of that as well. View women quite often as property of men. They are not considered equal to men. I know that there's been a lot of effort amongst very religious people to at least publicly talk up the idea that women are the helpmate, that they're equal to men, they are just designed to do different things in life, and that somehow as long as there's a woman and then there's a man in this relationship, that they make up a whole. I find that thinking flawed. I find that thinking flawed and viewed through its historical context of the time. Certainly we know that, or we feel we know through academic study of archaeological evidence, etc., that there was a time when society was run by matriarchs. Women were healers. Women were leaders of the community, partially because of their creative ability. They were able to create life and therefore imbued with, certainly a value in society that elevated them. I like this idea. I don't know if you've ever read any of Jean Auel's books, the Clan of the Cave Bear series, but it gets to the very end of it, and I found this fascinating, and I'm granted this is historical fiction, but that the idea that once people kind of figured out that it was the mating process that actually created new life, that suddenly you had men who before, in rituals, etc., were comfortable with women, various women and men pairing off to enjoy the gifts of the mother, so to speak, euphemism for sex, with each other. And there was not, various partners, etc., and there was no possession felt. But once they all of a sudden started to figure out that a certain man would create a child, now that was suddenly possession. They wanted a child to definitely be theirs. And the only way they could do that was to control the body of the woman. And that's what we see play out, in my mind anyway, historically around the role of women, is that men had to control the bodies of women in order to be sure that the child that the woman produced was their own. Anyway, so if you already have this kind of historical or societal thinking that being a woman is less than being a man, then certainly any man who takes on societally stereotyped feminine characteristics, whether that's the voice, whether that is wearing longer hair. Granted, there's some historical time periods where longer hair on men was fine, but yeah, like now is not one of those times. Longer hair, wearing makeup, painting nails, a lot of these kinds of behaviors that are female, and being in a certain role or position in sharing the gifts of the mother, love this euphemism today, was the female role. And that men were they call it euphemistically, were the top. Let's put a little bit there, the penetrator, and women were the penetratee, and that anytime a man stepped into a female role, so when you have two men, one of them is going to, at least in the sharing the gift to the mother, be in that penetratee role in one shape or form, and that this somehow made other men view them as lesser because now they were taking on the female characteristics in this kind of relationship, and that was bad. Misogyny. I feel that has a great level of degree to do with homophobia, especially homophobia that men manifest, that they hate that another man would want to take on this kind of female position in a relationship. It somehow threatens them. For a lot of them, it's probably because they're fighting their own feelings. More and more studies tend to show that the more homophobic a man is anyway, the more likely they are to actually be bisexual or homosexual, and they're fighting it. Makes sense, Anyway, so misogyny. Now, the other thing is that a lot of men aren't threatened by a woman and a woman in a relationship. Let's skip the fact that that's kind of a fantasy sometimes, but it doesn't threaten them because there's no man involved, and even if they think about it in terms of there being a male version and a female person in the relationship, flawed thinking, they don't see wanting to take on masculine or male characteristics in a relationship as somehow being lesser. They can understand that. I think that's part of the reason why we allow women to wear pants, but we won't let a man wear a dress. Because it's okay to aspire to masculinity, it is not okay to aspire to femininity. Then we could talk about transgender people, and certainly out there in conversation around transphobia, I don't hear people talking about having an issue with somebody who is transitioning female to male or a trans man And part of that, if you follow this line of thinking, is that we as a society, and men in particular, can totally understand and agree with aspiring to masculinity, to aspiring to maleness, because that's the top, that's the pinnacle. But to aspire to femininity, to aspire to be female, they totally don't get that, totally threatened by that. Yeah, so I've ranted today. I didn't mean to go on too long. But think about it. How do you think misogyny plays into homophobia and transphobia? And what can we do to reverse it? If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. I'd love to have you hit the red subscribe button, tap the bell. That allows you to be notified whenever I put up a new video. And be back on on Friday. Next week, I'm traveling to New Orleans, and I will be at a conference. I will do this from there. It'll be interesting. Probably not the Tuesday one because I'll be on a plane Tuesday, but the one for Friday will certainly be from New Orleans. And then a little bit later, I'll be in New York City. So all kinds of things happening that we can talk about. But please, put your comments below. What do you think about this philosophy on misogyny? Have a great week, equals. See ya.